everybody. Welcome to the Tea Party Podcast. It's the country music podcast where you find new friends and new music. And joining me on this week's episode is singer-songwriter originally from the Northeast, and you might have heard him on the Chive, but we'll get into that. It's Chris Ferrara. Chris, man, thanks for jumping on with me, buddy.
Of course, Ty. Thanks for having me. Thanks for making the call and inviting me on.
Yeah, man, it's been a little while. Until this week, I thought the first time that we met was in a little conference room here at the radio station that I used to work at. But I've got a fun story that I think that you'll like that we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we get into that, tell everybody kind of where you're from and how you got started in music.
Sure. I'm originally from a small town just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. It's called Sharon, Mass. And I grew up there, and I was always involved in music ever since I was a kid, really. I learned the national anthem when I was like 3 years old, and I've been singing that ever since. It's led me to be able to sing at Gillette Stadium before Patriots games for the last 3 years. So I've been singing my whole life. I come from a very musical family. My mom sings. My dad used to sing. My dad used to lead the worship group at church. And I did it all growing up. I was in traveling groups. I had a band back in Boston, and then in 2012, I got hired by a country music artist who we met through, I believe. And we went out on the road, and he took me out with him. I was his rhythm guitar player. He said, "You're going to need to move to Nashville," and I said, "Okay." And with no notice, I guess with 2 weeks' notice, I quit my job, and 6 months later, I was moving to Nashville, and it was a full-time musician, and I haven't looked back since.
Well, and you talk about coming from the Boston area, and anybody that's heard your music, kind of, I think they can feel that you grew up in kind of a time in Boston. And we were talking on Twitter one day, and I kind of coined the term ska country for a couple of your songs. And I love that you include a full brass section in some of your songs. How did that come about?
Well, I grew up listening to a lot of soul music. I grew up listening to the Eagles and to the Beach Boys, but mainly when I would go to my aunt's house, I would be, the infomercials that are on at like 3 a.m. and it's like, call now and spend $40 and get soul's greatest hits from 1960 to 1980. So my aunt was probably the reason why they stayed in business. And I used to listen to a lot of soul and R&B and Motown growing up, and I was always a big fan of Chicago, and the horn section, I'd always been drawn to that. Michael Jackson was always one of my favorite artists, and I was drawn to horn sections. And I mean, even growing up listening to ska music and some punk music, anything from Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and the OC Supertones, I used to listen to a lot of that stuff. And so I figured out if I really want to make my own brand of music, something that speaks to who I am, when people come and see my show, then it has to have a horn section. And actually, I've caught a lot of backlash. I don't want to say backlash, but I've caught a lot of people being against it, just because to bring a big band like that on the road costs a lot of money, and to put shows like that on around town, it costs a lot of money. And I've always said I believe that someday it's going to pay itself off, and it's going to all be worth it, because I've always wanted to stay true to who I am and true to the kind of music that I would want to listen to. And that's going to be with a horn section and with rock and guitars and all kinds of stuff. So it's that's where that all came from.
Well, and it's a really unique sound. Like, it's not something that you usually see, like you said, kind of outside of the jazz or the ska or the punk rock kind of genres, and you kind of marry that. And I think country music just in general in itself it's kind of in a weird place of trying to find what the new sound is. I mean, there's so many.
Sure.
You've got hip hop, you've got outlaw country, you've got bro country. I mean, just kind of anything that any type of music out there, it's kind of become a country genre, and you're kind of doing that yourself.
Well, I think it all comes down to what the stories are. I think that's
Absolutely.
A lot of people. One of the biggest questions that people ask a lot, and what I ask a lot, is what makes country music. And truthfully, I mean, to be completely honest, I was not growing up. I didn't listen to a lot of country music. I listened to I listened to what my mom listened to, and my mom listened to Dolly Parton, and she listened to Kenny Rogers, and my dad was a Bruce Springsteen fan. My dad was a Doobie Brothers fan. And my younger brother, actually was a huge Jason Aldean, Kenny Chesney. Like, my brother was a super, super country fan. So I always had a taste of it, but I was always drawn to the more dancey stuff. I was drawn more to pop music and that kind of thing. But then when I moved to Nashville, I fell in love with country music. I actually learned so much about it, and I was like, well, if I'm going to live here, I need to learn about what this music is all about, especially if I'm going to be playing country music for somebody, and I want to know what all this music means. And the more I started to peel the layers back and to see the roots of it all, and to see where it came from, and to see how it's changed over the course of time, the more I realized, holy smokes, I love country music. What have I been missing? I used to be the guy who was like, country music's terrible and I'm not going to listen to it. And now I'm like, I look at those people like, what are you talking about? Even if you go back in time, country music is beautiful, and the stories that it tells, and just the musicianship of it all, and everything. I've fell head over heels in love with it. And the more I listen to it, the more I realize, well, I grew up very similar to a lot of people who are singing these country songs. I grew up in a very similar way, and once I started learning how to really craft a song and write a song while being here in Nashville, I started to write more and more country lyrics, and my lyricism started to change because I started to kind of realize where I came from and how I was raised. And I thought, well, you know what, I'm actually very similar to all these people. It's kind of crazy.
Well, and a lot of people, I think, see country music like, it's just a farm boy out on the corn truck riding in the field, and that's not really what it is. And I think some of your songs kind of speak to that, and we'll talk about your new single coming up in a little bit. But I think that song in itself, you don't talk about the blue collar country life type of stuff, but you tell a story in that song that honestly, I think that's going to hit a lot of people, especially in that situation.
That's my hope. My hope is that it comes across that way. I grew up a blue collar kid. My dad, he inherited, took on the family business from his father of being a dry cleaner. And that's what the song is all about. Well, it's not just about that. It's about how, my family and I, we joke a lot that I have the same hustle as my brother and as my dad and as my mom. I have the same hustle, it's just in a different field. And the amount of effort and time that doing what I do consumes is very similar to that lifestyle that my parents had to lead. So that's what the story is all about. It's the story of the song is just not having enough hours in the day to give to the people that you really care about, that you really love. You want to shower these people with love and affection and give them all of your time. But if you're really pushing for something, and if you have a dream that you're really pursuing, or if you've already achieved it and you're still working in those jobs, there's just not enough time. And all you want to do is see these people, and sometimes you just can't. And I think it's a story that a lot of people will relate to. I've played it out a lot of times, and I've teased it to some of my friends, and especially people who I know live that kind of a lifestyle and work so much to provide for their families and to provide for themselves. And I think it's a song that is really going to resonate with a lot of people, and that's what I'm hoping for anyway. So that's why I'm putting it out there.
Well, and I think that's a good one, and everybody here will have a chance to listen to that a little bit later. But you talk about coming from the background that you came from, and I think one of the things about your story that really is kind of inspiring to me, just as a parent of a 6-year-old in general, is that your parents never really told you no to doing activities. So you were involved in everything. You had sports and choir and even some like stage production stuff. How big of an impact did that have on your drive today?
Oh, that's huge. My parents, they never told me I couldn't do something. Of course we had rules, of course,
definitely.
But they never, if myself or my brother, if we were interested in something, my parents, except for hockey, they definitely didn't want me to play hockey, because hockey is a very expensive sport that requires very early mornings, and they didn't really want to be a part of that. So they didn't really have that be an interest. They were like, he's not talking about it, we won't pursue it. But it was, if I wanted to play baseball or play football or play any other sports, they were all about it. They'd be supportive, and then they would, they also knew that, like I said, I came from a musical family, so I always wanted to be involved with chorus and be involved with musicals and stuff. I was in when I was in high school, I would be late to baseball and basketball practice because I was at choir practice right after school. And for my basketball games, my junior and senior year, I would sing the national anthem right before I would go and start as the point guard. And that was my life. That's just what I knew. And like I said, I was in musicals in high school. We did a couple of those that I got to have lead roles in. My parents never said they never said no, and they were always super encouraging and supportive. Thankfully I had very, very supportive parents who would show up and be in the stands or be in the audience and would cheer me on, and they did the same for my brother. And it was truly a blessing to have parents like that who were supportive of anything that we wanted to do. And now here I am living 1,000 miles away from home, and I don't get to see them nearly as much as I would like to. But they still take every opportunity. My dad calls me every day after a show. If I'm within 8 hours or 7 hours of driving distance, my mom will try to make it to the show. And my brother works harder than anybody I know, and so when he gets a chance to kind of take some time off, he comes out to Nashville to come out and hang out, or we try to go up and see him. So yeah, I've been very blessed with having the opportunity to always pursue the things that I'm interested in, and have a support system behind me.
Well, and I was going to ask you, like, moving from the Boston area in the Northeast down to Nashville, I mean, that's not just a change of scenery, but it's a change of culture, really. I mean, is it been moving away from the family that's been the toughest part about living in Nashville? Obviously it's living in Nashville, so there can't be that many tough parts.
Nashville is really an awesome city, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if I ever see myself going back home. I think that if I can get to a point where my career has taken me to a point where it doesn't matter where I live, and I can still be out on the road and I can be playing my music if I'm successful enough to have that opportunity, then I would probably go back home. That's where all my family is. That's where a lot of my friends are. So it would make sense for me to be back that way and to just have that part of my quality of life be better. But I mean, yeah, it was a total culture shock to move here. The Northeast, specifically Boston and in Providence, Rhode Island, and New York City, those are melting pots. You go up there and you get people from everywhere up there. And while Nashville is getting to that point, it's not at the same level that that Northeast culture is. And the Northeast culture is very hard. It's very, everybody, we get a bad rap up there because everybody thinks that we're all jerks, and they think that we're all, arrogant and pushy, and that's what happens when you put a lot of people on top of each other. If you spend any time in Nashville, there's been so many people that have moved here, and there are so many tourists that are coming here that it's starting to get a little bit like that here, where people are like, hey, I liked my space, and now you're crowding it. But that was one thing that I noticed when I moved here, was that I have a very quick wit, and I had a sarcastic way of talking to people, and that kind of has gone away a little bit. It softened me up being down here. But that was, people were like, man, you're quick. We're not like that down here. And well, that's just where I'm from. That's where I'm from. That's how we were raised. We had to be that way. But as far as what do I miss the most, missing my family and missing my friends is all that. But, a lot of times because of this career path, I have to make choices to not go to things. My friends will get married, and unfortunately, if I'm not working on the weekends, then I don't make any money, because that's when my shows are. And I've even had to missed my grandfather's funeral because I was out on the road touring, and I didn't have the money to get home. And it's those kinds of things that are the heaviest that weigh on you, at least for me anyway, in this profession. It's been the things that I've had to miss out on. And to know that all of my friends are getting together while I'm out here pursuing something else, that, I'm on a path that, it's one that people can't really see. It's not, I'm trying to pave my own path as I'm out here, and it's hard to miss out on things back home. That's been the hardest thing.
Well, and I think a lot of people kind of don't see that side of it a lot, where,
sure,
they just think, okay, yeah, you moved to Nashville, now you get to play at a couple of different bars every night. You're just living it up, and they don't get to see that it's not just it's not all fun and games, especially in the touring life.
No, well, I mean, a lot of I joke about this with my friends. A lot of people think that we either make millions of dollars and we play Madison Square Garden, or we play for free beer. And it's and that's just not the case at all. It's there's a lot of hustle that goes into. Truthfully, the easiest part of my job, and arguably the most fun, is being on stage. I don't get paid to do that. I'll do that for free for the rest of my life. What I'm working is the hours on the phone, the hours in front of my computer sending emails to venues, to companies to try to partner with, to touring and trying to get new opportunities across the board. That's what, and then I get paid to drive. We travel hours and hours and hours to go and to bring music and entertainment to people that either know about us or don't know about us, and we're trying to teach them about us. And that's where all the hustle is. It's what was your work day? Your work day was, somebody was sitting on the computer and doing data entry. Somebody was waiting tables. Somebody was crunching numbers or whatever. Well, my 9 to 5 was spent on Route 65, and I was driving wherever I had to get to the next gig. So that's a lot of people don't see that, and mainly it's because it's not the highlight reel. When you go on social media, people look for highlight reels, and that's not what you don't like. The road life stuff is fun, and you want to see that, but all the hard stuff that comes with it, like I said, missing weddings and missing birthday parties and funerals and stuff, like that's not the stuff you don't want to see. You don't want to see your favorite artist in their struggle. You want to see all the glitz and glamour and all the high life stuff. So there's that push and pull. How do you how do you blur the line? Yeah. But stay real at the same time. So I try to just stay real the whole time. I don't care.
You do.
I'm just, hey, this is me, and this is who I am. If you're gonna be a fan of me, this is what my life is like.
Well, and you really do. I don't know how many times I've just like randomly stumbled across a different story on your Instagram where there's something you were chasing an animal through your garage a couple months ago. Like it's real life stuff, and I think that's there's some fans out there that don't appreciate that side of stuff enough.
And they should, because that's what. So many times people, especially people who have success in this industry or in any industry really, where social media comes into play, you should want to see all that stuff, because these people, while they have this larger than life personality, like they still have to deal with regular real stuff all the time, and it's nice for me anyway to know that the people that I look up to, or the people that are, musicians or artists that I follow or whatever, like that, like they are similar to me, and that's what makes me like them even more.
Well, and you've been doing this for quite a while. Your first real band, was that in college?
The songwriting started in college. It was with my best friend Sully. Everybody from back home has a friend named Sully, and mine was we became best friends freshman year of college. And we started writing songs together, and there's a band called Kingston 530, and we won a few big Battle of the Bands in Boston. Started to see a lot of cool opportunities coming for us. We opened for the Gin Blossoms. We had opened for Edwin McCain and Howie Day. We did a whole bunch of stuff, and that's when the first band started like right after college, and that was the music that we were making was very in the vein of like Matchbox 20 and Goo Goo Dolls, and that kind of, I don't want to say alternative rock, but like adult contemporary kind of rock music.
Okay, and then so that kind of led you. How did you hook up with Joe Bachman?
So Joe and I had met on my 25th birthday. My brother had just gotten home from boot camp, and he was finally 21. He wanted to go out and have a drink with me for my birthday. So a bunch of my friends and I went out to this bar in Boston, and Joe had this really successful cover band. And we, during his shows, he always does something for the troops. So my brother, who just got home from boot camp, was all gung-ho about it. And after the show, he went up to Joe and introduced himself, said, "Thank you for what you're doing for the troops. You don't know what that means to us." And then he said, "You need to meet my brother. My brother's a musician. I think you guys would really hit it off." So my brother introduced me to Joe. Joe and I formed a friendship for like the next like year and a half, mainly through social media, or if he ever would come through town, I would go and see him play. And then I had reached out to him and I said, hey man, listen, I think my band is we're starting to kind of fizzle out. You know, we're losing members and things are kind of changing. And I really want to do music full time. I'd really love to be able to pursue this and do what you do, because I know that you're a full time musician and you play all over the country. And in that moment, he called me and said, "Can you play? You know, I know that you can sing because you front this band. And I've heard you sing before. Can you sing harmonies?" And I said, "Yeah, I can sing harmonies. I've been singing harmonies since I was a kid. It's one of my favorite things to do." And he said, "Okay, can you play guitar?" And I said, "Well, I can. I play guitar at a bar for drunk people when I play acoustic happy hours. Like, they seem to like it. I'm definitely not like a shredder, but I can play." And he said, "Well, if you're really serious about this, my rhythm guitar player just quit with no notice, and I need a sub. I need somebody to take his place. And if you would like to be involved, I'd really love to give you this opportunity. And you're going to have to move to Nashville, and we're going to be pursuing my original career, and we're going to, you know, try to make this happen." And I was like, "Okay, let's go." And I jumped at the opportunity, and then he and I went on the road for 4.5, almost 5 years together, as his original act with just Joe Bachman, and then we started a cover band a couple of years after that, called Joe Bachman and the Tailgaters, and then we just were the Tailgaters because he and I were a duo fronting the band, and it was and then that all led me to where I am now.
See, and that's awesome. And so the very first show that I ever worked when I got into radio was this little concert. It was like 4 days after I had started at the radio station. It was this stage that they set up in the middle of the park downtown here in Spokane in front of the clock tower on the water. And it was Joe Bachman, and I didn't even realize it until earlier this week that you were actually playing guitar on that stage that day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
I remember that park. That was beautiful.
I will say, it's, without sounding cocky, it's one of the coolest parks that I've seen, like, in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I live here. Like, it's a cool thing to have here.
Well, and then you can just walk right over and go see the waterfall, which is, I mean, that's not a bad thing at all.
No, it's not. But so you spent quite a bit of time with Joe, and he took you. I mean, with that band, you ended up just around the world, right?
I would say all around a portion of the world. Yeah. We hit every corner of the United States. We traveled. He had bought a truck for us to travel in, an SUV for us to travel in. And we ended up putting over 250,000 miles on it over the course of the time that we were all together and all the touring that we did. And that doesn't include flights or train tickets or cruising and all that stuff, because we were able to do a lot of cool things. We played in Hawaii with Mick Fleetwood. We played at his bar. He actually got up on stage and played a few songs with us, which was really, really cool. We were able to play on called the Tiger Cruise. So when the U.S. Navy is coming home from their deployment, they stop. Their family meets up with them in Hawaii, and then they ride the ship back with them, the aircraft carrier back with them to San Diego. And so we got to be the entertainment on that. We played up in Canada. We played in Mexico. Let's see, where else did we? I'm trying to think where else we went. But we never went over to Europe or anything like that. That's definitely a bucket list thing. I'm dying to get out there.
See, and that's awesome. And it seems like that kind of that opened up a bigger realm for you that you wouldn't have had without him.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's, every door that got open led to something else, and it's certainly things that I never would have, opportunities that I never would have had, or that are coming down the pipe now. I mean, God, this interview, this interview right now, is this conversation we're having never would have happened had I not been out on the road with Joe. So it's all kinds of things that are just the connections that we were able to make, and the relationships and friendships that I was able to get from being on the road with Joe and being able to tour like that has, opened tons of doors for me now, as my own solo artist.
Well, and so as a solo artist, one of the I'd say the first song that I heard from you as a solo artist, I didn't even hear from you. And I'm talking about Social.
Yep.
That's kind of a unique story. Tell us that one.
Sure.
How that came about.
Sure. So the song Social, where it came from was we were at a Kentucky Derby party up in Louisville, Kentucky, and there was a gentleman there. He was I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe he was either a medic or I don't believe he was a general, but he had some high up ranking with military, and he was a friend of the guy who was throwing the party. And we had asked him, I go, sir, would you like a drink? We're making a drink. Would you like one? And he said, well, I'm a social drinker, so if you're drinking, so shall I. And I was like, oh my God, sir, thank you for that. Can I have your permission to use that and put that in the song? That's going to be, I'm going to write that song someday, because that's brilliant.
That's such a good line.
Man, yeah, go ahead. And it wasn't even 2 weeks later that, I think, it was probably like a week later, John Resig of the Chive had reached out to me and to Joe and said, hey, the Chive really needs a summer anthem. We need something that we've tried to have other bands do it before, and it just hasn't worked out, and we'd love to give you guys a shot at it. And I said to Joe, Joe, social drinking. Like, this is it. This is our moment to use this. It was gifted to us a week ago. Now we can use it. And so we sat down the following week. We wrote the song, and we sent it off to the Chive. They loved it. They were just playing our work tape over their speakers and saying, this is it. This is the one we're going to use. Let's get behind this. Let's do this. And we were in the studio a week later. And a week after that, they were shooting the music video out in Austin, Texas, and they sent a film crew to shoot my portion of the music video in Boston, because my band, the Tailgaters, we were the Tailgaters at the time. We were playing in Boston, but we decided that we were going to release the song under my name because Joe was going to be retiring, and I was going to be pursuing my original career. So in less than a month, we had the idea, the song written, the song fully produced and ready to go, and the music video was shot for it. It was just all happened all at once. It was overwhelming, it was exciting, and it was my first opportunity to kind of put music with my name out there. And I was truly blessed to have the Chive want to get behind it and for them to make the music video and to help us out.
So, and has it given you the chance to actually meet Bill Murray?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I actually had met Bill Murray before we even wrote the song. We would go and play. The Murray brothers do a big charity golf tournament down in St. Augustine, Florida, and so we would go and we would play at it. And we got to meet him there, and we became friends with his business associate, one of his, I don't think he's a personal assistant to him, but he's a very close friend and does a lot of business for Bill. And we were opening for Sister Hazel in South Carolina. And our buddy said, hey, what do you guys got going on tomorrow? Like, are you guys doing anything during the day? And we said, no. And he said, well, do you want to come and hang out at Bill's house? And I was like, Bill Murray? He said, yeah. Like, yeah, okay. So we went, knocked on the door. Bill opened the door. It let us into his house. Said, hey, come on in. And he was actually moving, and he had all of his alcohol was just sitting on the counter. He said, have a drink. Pour yourself a drink. Hang out. What's up? What's nice to meet you guys? And he was so nice. He was just casually hilarious. But we got to meet his whole family, all of his kids, and I've actually continued to have a friendship with one of his sons, he's a super cool kid. And, that's how I got to meet him. And I've interacted with him a few other times when we've gone down to the charity golf tournament. But we decided, because he's such a big face, literally, for the Chive, we got to put his name in the song. And I mean, who wouldn't want to party with Bill Murray?
That's true.
It is I can tell you from firsthand experience that it is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, what do you say we give everybody a chance to listen to that one?
Sure.
I believe in going with the flow, long as it's headed someplace I wanna go. Doing what the Romans do when I'm in Rome. Ah, yeah. Didn't plan on throwing down today, but I'm down for anything except halfway. If you wanna light it off, all you gotta do is say so. And I'll say, hey, raise them high, cause any summer night can be the 4th of July. Oh, oh, here we go again. About to party like Bill Murray just walked in. Say, hey, if you're in line to fill up your cup, can you fill up mine? Cause if you're drinking to be social, then so shall I. Socialize. If you wanna get loud, yeah, that's cool. If you wanna skinny dip, hop in the pool. Only rule is we're gonna break all the rules tonight. I'll say, hey, raise them high, cause any summer night can be the 4th of July. Oh, oh, here we go again. About to party like Bill Murray just walked in. Say, hey, if you're in line to fill up your cup, can you fill up mine? Cause if you're drinking to be social, then so shall I socialize. Yeah, tomorrow will be hurting, but it's gonna be worth it if we party with a purpose. So let's party with a purpose. Hey, raise them high, cause any summer night can be the 4th of July. Oh, oh, here we go again. About to party like Bill Murray just walked in. Say, hey, if you're in line to fill up your cup, can you fill up mine? Cause if you're drinking to be social, then so shall I socialize. Yeah, socialize. Socialize.
There it is, Social from Chris Ferrara. That one, it's been out for a while, but still every year I end up at this little festival out here called Watershed. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Sure.
But I mean, that's kind of our campground anthem, if you will, just to keep the drinks flowing and having a good time.
Heck yeah.
And,
well, I encourage anybody and everybody to put it on their summertime playlist.
For sure. And it really is a summertime song. And here's the problem is I've played it so many times around my 5-year-old that he stops at the hey part. He won't say the first hey, but at the top of his lungs, he'll yell the second hey.
I love it. That's awesome.
He does. He absolutely loves it. But let's talk about the next song that you put out on Spotify. Just came out. Was that last year?
Yep. Yeah, I put it out. When did it come out? It came out in October of last year.
So that song, and that's kind of where I think when we were talking, and I kind of dubbed it ska country. It doesn't quite have the typical country feel, but you really get a feel for those horns. It's such a good song. How did that one come about?
That one I wrote with Adam Wood. Adam Wood ended up being the producer for the track. I have an entire EP that we never released. So I've got 4 or 5 more songs. I think it's 4 more songs that are just kind of sitting on the back burner that we've never put out, just because we never had a plan for it, and we had released another song, and there was a whole mess around that one. But Something to Prove was the title track off of the EP, and Something to Prove was my favorite song off of it, just because I really loved everything about it. I really loved the instrumentation. The music in it is very telling of the kind of style of show that I want to do. Somebody once told me that listening to that song and listening to my other music, you can tell that the show is fun to go to. And that was a huge compliment to me, because I think the live show takes everything to another level, and I pride myself and my band on the live show. I think our live show is a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people really enjoy it. But I had a friend of mine had once said, you should always live and play like you have something to prove. And so I told that to Adam when we were writing, and he said, well, what if we narrow that down and we say, if I love you, like I have something to prove. Like, that's a real powerful way to say that you want to love somebody, and that you're always trying to prove yourself to this person. I never take it for granted, and it doesn't. I could go slow and I could do it all easy, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to come off lazy. And that's what the whole song is about: keeping things fresh and exciting in a relationship. The opening line is, I bought you flowers and I got you wine. I showed up dressed up like it was the first time. And that's the whole message throughout the whole song. So I think it's a fun song to listen to rock out to, because the guitars are heavy in it. There's some great harmony work in it that Adam was able to provide. And it's a really, really fun song to play live.
Well, and we've talked about it before. Where can people find your Instagram at?
My Instagram handle is I'm introducing myself to you, I am Chris Ferrara, and that is the same handle across all platforms, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, you name it, even Pinterest. That's my Pinterest page.
Nice. There you go.
You can. I'm everywhere under that name.
Well, and really, if you're out there listening, be sure to follow him, because I'm not kidding. Your Instagram page is one of my favorite ones to follow, just because you've got so much going on. And you talk about your live shows, and outside of seeing you at the park with Joe, and then seeing you in the little tiny conference room with everybody from the radio station, I haven't had a chance to see your full show, but I can tell that it's a good time just through what you post on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that it's translating well. Our show is. I like to say our show is half stand-up comedy, half live, in-your-face music. And, the guys and I that I have in my band, we all get along really, really well. We travel well together. We have a great friendship. And that I think is the most important thing that comes through on stage, because if we're having fun on stage, then the people who are watching us are most likely going to have fun. And I just think that's so important for us to portray every time we step on stage. And I always say, whatever you got going on, leave it off the stage, leave it at the door. And when you get on stage, you're able to release all of that and really have a lot of fun making music with the people that you like. And the hope is that translates to the audience, and the audience can forget about whatever's going on in their life for however long they're at our show.
And I think something to prove, even just hearing it, you kind of get that feeling that it's a fun show. So let's take a second, let everybody listen to that, and then I want to talk to you about your songwriting.
Sure.
I bought you flowers, I got your wine, showed up dressed up like it was the first time. You lit the candles, but I'll start the fire, kiss you till it gets you buzzing like a live wire. Oh, you already know how I feel about you, baby. Oh, but that don't mean I'm gonna go and get lazy. I could love you slow and easy, but I'm gonna love you till you believe me. When I tell you that I'm never getting used to this, I'ma offer up something that you can't resist. Ain't no routine between you and me when I love you, like I got something to prove, like I got something to prove. I see you smiling, but girl, I'm for real. Ain't nobody joking about the way I'm about to make you feel. No, I can't help it. When you touch my skin, all I wanna do is do the thing we do so good again. Oh, baby, I hope you didn't make any plans. Oh, 'cause I got nothing but time and your body on my hands. I could love something that you can't resist. Ain't no routine between you and me when I love you. Like I got something to prove. About you, baby. Oh, oh, but that don't mean I'm gonna go and get lazy. I could love you slow and easy, but I'm gonna love you till you believe me. When I tell you that I'm never getting used to this, I'm gonna offer up something that you can't resist. Ain't no routine between you and me when I love you. Like I got something to prove.
That one is Something to Prove by Chris Ferrara. And Chris, I love that song, the horn section and all of that, but you talked a little bit about how you came up with that song, and I know everybody's got their own kind of a writing style. What does your writing process look like? Are you the guy that comes up with the lyrics first, or do you come up with the music part first, or does it all kind of come together at the same time?
That's a great question. I think everybody's different. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Some people come through with the lyrics first, and they come through with a song idea, and they say, "Oh, I got this title. I want to work to this." And while I do that as well, I think my strongest suit as a songwriter is coming up with melodies. I think people remember melodies before they remember lyrics. You know, there's so many times where people will say, "Hey, what was that song that do 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 do?" and they start like humming the melody to it. Well, that's the most important part, and they even say it in 101 Dalmatians. 101 Dalmatians. The melody first, my dear, and then the lyrics, and that's the way that I write music. And then when I write music, I like to envision a music video. So in my head, I'm painting the portrait and painting the scene for what this song is going to say. But if we go and then a lot of times I'll say to whoever I'm writing with, hey, play what you're feeling right now, especially if they play piano, because the piano is such a melodic instrument. You can really feel through the keys the temperature of the song and the feeling in the song. And then from there we say, okay, well, how does this music make you feel? What kind of situation are you hearing with this music? And then from there you come up with a melody to go along with the way that the chords are going. And then from there, once you have your melody, that now you have your syllables, and you can try to figure out how, what words are going to fit. And then you just polish it all up and make it all, find the best words for it. I can't tell you how much time is spent deciding between but and or just not even using those two words at all. So it's you trade out words for other ones, and it's sometimes it's a long, frustrating process. Sometimes it just flows really, really quickly. But that's how I go. I usually go music and melody first, and then throw lyrics in.
Well, and you've got a new single that you're working on, and again, I keep pushing people to your Instagram because that's where I heard a snippet of it first.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Today, Tomorrow. What was that writing process? I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but what was that writing process like? Was it just you, or did you have a couple of guys there to help you fine tune?
No. Out here, I wrote that with a buddy of mine, Johnny McGuire, and Scott Buchanan. Johnny actually is going to be. He was part of a group called Walker McGuire, and he has since now going off on his solo career, and he's releasing a song with Billy Ray Cyrus called Chevys and Fords. And I got to hear him play it in Key West at the Key West Songwriters Festival, and it is a song that knocked me on my ass, and I think it's just going to be a huge, huge song for him. So if I can plug him to everybody, make sure you check out Johnny McGuire, Chevys and Fords, when it comes out. But I sat down with those guys, and I can't remember exactly who came in with the idea for it. but it was, the whole thought was I'll hear about today tomorrow. And, we started to kind of map out how that story would go and what that song would be about. And we all kind of drew on real life circumstances that we've gone through. As I said earlier, my dad owned a dry cleaning business, and he was there from sun up to sundown. And we were able to put a lot of that, not that imagery, but that kind of feeling into the song. And Johnny was a touring musician as well. I think Scott was as well. Scott had a group that he was with, and we all realized that we all have to be away from our families too to pursue this dream of music that we're making. And we were able to really tie it all in together. And I mean, it's definitely one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. And I've had a lot of people connect with it. I'm super excited to put it out. And I've already got the music video in my head for it. I actually earlier today I was writing the treatment for it because I know exactly what I want it to look like. And I'm hoping to do a partnership down the line. I'd love to turn it into some kind of nonprofit kind of idea with some credit card company, hopefully Capital One. Because I do a lot of work with them, I've done a lot of their events. And my thought behind it is the Today Tomorrow campaign. What would you do today if you could pay for it tomorrow? And I would love to have people submit to that and then be able to give back to people, because that's pretty much what my entire career is founded on, is allowing my platform to grow bigger so that I can have a longer outreach, that I can help more people. I try to do as much charity work as I can with my band, and that's why that's why the band is called The Common Good.
And that was actually going to be my next question, is how you came up with that, the band name, The Common Good. But you kind of laid it out there, and I think that's something that's special about the country music genre itself. Is you've got you've got some people there that are only there for the fame and the fortune, but most guys are like you, where they just want to give back. They want to get bigger so they can make a bigger impact, and I think that's really important.
Well, I think a lot of us, both men and women, male and female artists in the country genre, a lot of us were raised the same way, and we were brought up in the same kind of upbringing with where our moral compass is pointing in the right direction. And, we all realize that there's something out here bigger than all of us. And the more good that we can do for those around us, the better off not just our lives are going to be, but the lives of everyone that is involved.
And I think that's really clear, especially when you actually get to sit down and have conversations with some of these guys and gals, that it really comes clear what their motives are. And I think they tend to be the people that kind of rise to the surface.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's what you hope anyway.
Yeah.
you hope that the good guys win. That's what we all hope for.
Okay, let's take a second, let everybody take a listen to what will be your new single. You're nice enough to let us play it on here, and it's a work tape, so it's not all polished up like the other two songs are. But
yeah, I'm going into the studio soon to record it. It's coming up real soon. Cool. So this is just the work tape. This is an acoustic performance of it.
This is a good taste of it, and you really get the story and the emotion behind it. So let's take a second and take a listen to this.
Daddy always left in the morning, but he never hit the morning rush, working longer than the sun did to make sure we had enough. And I couldn't wait for Fridays, 'cause on the table he'd leave a note beside an empty cup of coffee were the words that he wrote. I know I'm not there all the time, but I hope you know you never leave my mind. These long days always seem to go so slow. They go so slow. And you'll be asleep when I get home, so I'll hear about today tomorrow. funny how a boy can grow up and fall into his old man's ways. I found a woman I could give my love to, and I put her heart in second place. Oh, but if her world was perfect, no, she'd never be alone. And I'd never have to say goodnight through a text message on the telephone, saying I know I'm not there all the time, but I hope you know you never leave my mind. These long days always seem to go so slow, they go so slow. You'll be asleep when I get home, so I hear about today, tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll lose track of keeping time. Tomorrow I'm all yours. Tomorrow you're all mine. You're all mine. 'Cause I know I'm not there all the time, but I hope you know you never leave my mind. All these long days always seem to go so slow, they go so slow. You'll be asleep when I get home, so I'll hear about today, tomorrow. I'm gonna hear about today, tomorrow. Tomorrow, oh, tomorrow, tomorrow. Daddy always left in the morning, but he never hit the morning rush.
And that one will be the newest single from my man Chris Ferrara, Today, Tomorrow. Keep an eye out for it. It'll definitely, you say you're heading into the recording studio soon for that one?
Yep, I'm supposed to get in there actually next week for this, so I don't know when this is going to air, but by that time it may have already, I've already been in there, but I'm supposed to go the first week of July.
Okay, and that's right about when I think this one will come out the week after that. But something else that you did in Nashville here recently, CMA Fest. What was that like? That's got to be the craziest party that Nashville has, right?
It's certainly one of them. Nashville tends to be a very party-heavy city. I have a lot of friends that come through town, and they end up saying, "How do you live here? How do you?" Because they come through and they blow it all out. They have a great time. And I say, well, I don't do what you do. I live here. I work here. I'm sure if I came to visit you and I got wild for a weekend, that would probably be one of the wildest weekends you'd probably have for a while. And but CMA Fest is such a great time to be in Nashville. There's so much country music going on. There's so much just music going on. And you can go and see your favorite artists. You have the opportunity to be up close and personal with them in a situation that you wouldn't really normally get to have. And on top of that, you get to discover all sorts of new talent. You get to, you may end up at a stage that you weren't anticipating going to, and you learn about a new artist. So that's what the beautiful thing about CMA Fest is here in Nashville is the discovery of new talent and being able to see the people that you love the most. And CMA Fest for me, I got to play one show on a Thursday night, but outside of that, I was really just kind of a spectator this year. I was really excited to go around and support the friends that I've made in this genre and in this town, and go around and watch them perform and see what they're doing and seeing people react to them. I got to see my Fillmore play. And I had written with him before, and he and I had been friends, and I've always supported what he's doing. And to go around and see people singing all of his lyrics when I used to know him before, when he was really starting out, it was a really cool moment. So getting to see all that kind of stuff is really what I took in this past CMA Fest, and I'm hoping that next year I can get on one of the bigger stages and I can be performing for more people to see me and hear me and hear the live show that we have.
Well, and that's always the goal, right? Always got to move up to that next one.
Yes, always. Always. What Tom Brady always says, my favorite championship is the next one.
There you go. And it pains me to let you say that out loud. I just want you to
I know.
that.
That's why I said it. That's why I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are going to go, man, a Patriots fan. Well, yeah, that's where I'm from.
Once you've sung the national anthem at a stadium more than once, I feel, especially that close to your hometown, I feel like they've got to be your favorite team.
Sure, man. I grew up 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the stadium. I used to actually work at the stadium as a beer hawker up in the 300 levels, and I would sell beer to people. And for it to all come full circle and me get to be on the field singing, I feel like I've earned my keep as a Patriots fan.
Most definitely. But Chris, before we let you go here, something the way that we wrap up this show every week, it's called the Final Four. Just 4 quick questions for everybody to get to know you before you leave.
Sure.
And we'll start with the first one, and they're not easy because they make you think.
Okay.
First one, what's your favorite place that you've ever played?
Oh, favorite place I've ever played. I would probably say the House of Blues I guess 2 of them. House of Blues Chicago and House of Blues Boston. House of Blues Boston, I opened for Florida Georgia Line when I was playing with Joe Bachman. That was my first real big show back home in a long time, and I got to be there, and a lot of my friends came to come and see it. That was a really cool, because that was a bucket list one. And House of Blues Chicago was my debut first shows with my full band putting out my music, and I was opening for Sister Hazel, and I'll never forget that night for as long as I live.
That's awesome. Okay, how about this? The best show that you've ever been to that you weren't on the bill?
I can say this. I think I had a really good time at a Dave Matthews concert in 2009, but I don't remember being there.
That's good.
So I think so, but I remember coming, I remember going to it, and I remember leaving it. But the rest of it is I remember the encore song. But I'm pretty sure I had a great time at that. I think one of my buddies had gotten arrested. We just had a great time out on the lawn with everybody. It was a wild one. But I was able to catch Matchbox 20 in St. Augustine, Florida, and Matchbox 20 is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I knew every word to every song, and the light show was great, the sound was great. That one was probably my favorite one.
Okay, how about this? If you could play at any venue anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Ooh, there's so many. I think the O2 Arena is probably a top one. That's massive, and that's so exciting to be able to say that you did that. And I think Madison Square Garden is a cop-out answer, but it's also a real answer, because that would be so cool.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yep. How about the moon? Can I say the moon? I'd love to play a concert on the moon. That would be really cool.
Heck, I mean, you're still young enough and early enough in your career that there's a solid chance that might happen someday.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Okay, here we go. The last question. If you could play one show with anybody, alive or dead, who would it be?
Man, that's a good one. Shoot. Oh God. Maybe Elvis.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe Freddie Mercury. To go out on stage with Freddie Mercury in the heyday of Queen. Justin Timberlake. I don't know, man. There's so many. There's so many that I could throw out there. There's Frank Sinatra. Just to see somebody be as cool as he is. I don't know.
I think that
somewhere in there.
That says a lot about your style and the music that you listen to. You went from Elvis to Freddie Mercury to Justin Timberlake to Frank Sinatra.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
Well, you know what I mean. The Elvis one is probably I'd probably land most with Elvis, because I think I'm trying to do a lot of what Elvis did when he came out. He blurred the lines between so many different genres to create this rockabilly music. He had gospel, and he had soul, and he had country music, and there's some bluegrass in it, but he was also doing songs for show tunes kind of stuff, and he's singing the gospel and doing all of those things. He was blurring so many lines that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. While classification of music has to happen, I think, for if you can just come and enjoy the music as it is and be a music fan, I think you would really enjoy my show and my music. So I think I'm trying. Let's land on Elvis just to get a final answer.
There you go. Well, and you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, your music it's good, but it's hard to classify, and I think that's kind of your uniqueness.
Hey man, as long as it's followed with good, as long as good is the lead on there, it's I'll take that. I tell all my guys, don't have a bad butt. Don't let people say bad stuff about you. Always, because they're gonna remember that part. So
that's
just
true.
as long as it's good music, man, I'll take that all day.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you jumping on here, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man, I'll be welcome at any time. You call me up, and I'm happy to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, for sure. We'll definitely have to do it again. And if you're listening, again, follow him on social media, especially his Instagram account, because it's just a good time. Hit that subscribe button and tune in next week. It's the Tea Party Podcast, where you find new friends and new music like Chris Ferrara. We'll see you next time.